Grand Instructor Vex Thyrax K. Loon stood before the latest batch of recruits at the Celestial Defense Academy of Rigel Prime, his crystalline appendages twitching with barely concealed disdain. The morning light from the triple suns filtered through his translucent form, casting prismatic patterns across the spotless assembly hall floor. The sight would have been beautiful if he wasn't currently experiencing what his species considered the equivalent of a migraine. By the sacred quantum harmonies, he muttered to his assistant, Lieutenant Meridix, please tell me that brown-skinned bipedal creature in the back isn't what I think it is. Meridix, whose gelatinous form rippled with amusement, consulted her quantum tablet. Yes, sir, that would be Kai Nakamura-Rodriguez, the human. Vex Thyrax's crystalline structure emitted a high-pitched frequency that made several nearby energy-based life forms wince. A human? In my academy? What's next recruiting single-celled organisms from primordial soup? The human in question stood at parade rest, either oblivious to or ignoring the disparaging remarks. Unlike the floating, glowing, or phase-shifting forms around them, Kai remained solidly planted on 2 feet, wearing the standard-issue Academy uniform that had been hastily modified to accommodate a species that couldn't naturally change its shape. Recruits Vex Thyrax's voice resonated through the hall, making the quantum glass windows vibrate. Welcome to the most prestigious military training facility in the known universe. For 10,000 cycles, we have produced the elite of the elite. Only 1 in a million candidates receives an invitation. He floated closer to Kai, his crystalline form refracting light directly into the human's eyes. Some of you represent the pinnacle of evolution, the quantum minds of Nexus IX, capable of processing infinite probabilities simultaneously. The ethereal collective, who exist in 11 dimensions at once. The crystalline hierarchy, who... Excuse me, Sir. Kai raised a hand, interrupting what was clearly a well-rehearsed speech. You're giving me a headache with that light show. Would you mind taking a step to the left? The assembly hall went dead silent. The crystalline twins PH Rex and GH Rex ceased their harmonic humming in shock. Nix's VA lore, the pride of the ethereal collective, simultaneously gasped in all 11 dimensions. Vex Thyrax's surface crackled with indignation. Lieutenant Meridix, please remind me, what were the humans' test scores? Off the charts, Sir Meridix replied, her gelatinous form rippling faster with excitement. They broke 3 of our testing machines. We're still not sure how. Impossible, Vex Thyrax scoffed. Their species still thinks faster than light travel is cool. They get excited about carbonated sugar water. They sleep actually become unconscious for 1/3 of their pitifully short lives. Kai cleared their throat. We also invented something called sarcasm, sir. You might want to look it up in the xenocultural database. It's right next to sense of humor, another human specialty. More gasps. The quantum mind students began calculating the probability of a recruit surviving such insolence. Their crystalline processors nearly overheated when the calculations returned insufficient data. Vex Thyrax's form shifted from transparent to a deep, angry crimson. Well, human Nakamura-Rodriguez, since you're so confident, perhaps you'd like to demonstrate your species' capabilities. The Starweaver Trials begin tomorrow. I expect you'll provide us all with an educational experience. Looking forward to it, Sir Kai replied with a grin that made several energy-based life forms destabilize in discomfort. By the way, is it true that the crystalline hierarchy once tried to invade Earth, but left because they couldn't handle something called jazz music? The assembly hall erupted in chaos. PH Rex and GH Rex began emergency harmonization protocols to prevent cracking. Nix's VA lore shifted through several dimensions trying to process this historical scandal. And Lieutenant Meridix, despite her best efforts, couldn't quite suppress the ripple of laughter that coursed through her gelatinous form. Vex Thyrax K. Loon, Grand Instructor of the most prestigious academy in the galaxy, felt his crystalline structure age the equivalent of 1,000 years in that single moment. Somehow, he knew this was just the beginning of what promised to be the most chaotic training cycle in the Academy's history. And Kai Nakamura-Rodriguez just stood there, still grinning, already planning how to introduce their alien classmates to another human invention called breakdancing. The Starweaver Trials began at the crack of dawn, all 3 of them. Kai stood before the legendary path of the Cosmic Elite obstacle course, squinting at the holographic warning signs floating in 17 different languages. The last one, written in standard Galactic, simply read mathematically impossible for carbon-based life forms. Challenge accepted, Kai muttered, pulling out something that made several nearby aliens recoil in horror, a reusable water bottle. Nyx's VA lore materialized from the 11th dimension, their ethereal form shimmering with perfectly calculated superiority. Human Nakamura-Rodriguez, I feel obligated to inform you that this course was designed by the Quantum Mind Collective. Every obstacle utilizes advanced theoretical physics. The artificial gravity shifts randomly. The air itself becomes non-Newtonian fluid at irregular intervals. Cool, Kai replied, doing jumping jacks to warm up, so it's like a bouncy castle meets a pool full of cornstarch. Nyx's flickered in confusion, their multidimensional form briefly destabilizing. What? No, listen, the current record holder is me. I completed it in 47.3 quantum minutes by calculating the exact probability waves of. What is that primitive movement? Vextharax's voice shattered through the morning air as he approached, horrified by Kai's warm-up routine. Burpees, Kai grunted, continuing the exercise. Great for cardio. Want to join in? The crystalline twins PH Rex and GH Rex began recording the strange ritual for their xenoanthropology thesis. Lieutenant Meridix's gelatinous form wobbled with poorly suppressed amusement. Enough, Vextharax crackled. Begin the trials. Let's see how your burpees handle a course that defies the laws of physics themselves. The first obstacle materialized a quantum maze where each wall existed in a superposition of states. Nyx had solved it by calculating each probability wave. The crystalline twins had harmonized with the quantum frequencies. The energy beings had simply phased through. Kai walked straight through the first wall. Impossible, Vextharax's crystalline form nearly shattered. Those walls are quantum locked. Yeah, Kai shrugged, already moving to the next obstacle. But they only exist in a superposition until observed, right? I just closed my eyes and walked. Can't observe what you can't see. Nyx's VA lore's 11-dimensional jaw dropped. That's not how quantum mechanics works. Tell that to Schrodinger's cat, Kai called back, already tackling the gravity-defying climbing wall. Instead of using the designated anti-gravity nodes, Kai pulled out another horrifying human invention, chalk dust. As the artificial gravity shifted wildly, they simply adjusted their climbing technique, using basic physics and good old Earth parkour. Fascinating, Lieutenant Meridix noted, recording everything. They're not fighting the course's physics, they're adapting to them. The next challenge involved crossing a void where the air randomly switched between gas, liquid, and solid states. Previous recruits had spent hours calculating the patterns. Kai took a deep breath and sprinted through, timing their movements like dodging traffic in Tokyo. This is unprecedented, one of the quantum mind observers commented, their crystalline brain practically smoking from calculating the probabilities. They're using intuition. Worse, Meridix replied, they're using something called street smarts. The final obstacle was the infamous dimensional dash, a stretch where reality itself fragmented into multiple planes of existence. Nyx's VA lore had navigated it by existing in all dimensions simultaneously. The crystalline hierarchy used harmonic resonance to phase between realities. Kai pulled out an energy drink. No, Vextharax cried. That's contraband. But it was too late. Kai chugged the caffeine-loaded beverage, gave a happy shake, and then proceeded to move so fast they seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simply through pure hyperactivity. Time, Lieutenant Meridix announced, her gelatinous form vibrating with excitement. 46.9 quantum minutes. A new record. The assembly erupted in chaos. The crystalline twins started a harmonic resonance chain reaction in shock. Nyx's VA lore had to check all 11 dimensions to confirm what they'd just witnessed. The quantum mind observers began an emergency conference to rewrite several laws of physics. Kai just stood there, sipping water and checking their fitness tracker. Cool course. Kind of reminds me of that Ninja Warrior show back on Earth. Hey, any chance we could add some flaming hoops? For fun. Vextharax's crystalline form had gone completely transparent, a sign of extreme distress among his species. Lieutenant Meridix, please tell me this is a mathematical error. No error, Sir Meridix replied cheerfully, though you might want to review the footage of how they handled the quantum maze. Apparently, humans have been unknowingly applying advanced quantum mechanics principles through something they call closing your eyes and hoping for the best. As the chaos continued, Kai started doing cool-down stretches, already planning how to introduce their classmates to another human training technique called parkour in the background. Several administrative AIs could be heard frantically updating the Academy's safety protocols. "Oh," Kai added casually, "just wait until I show you what humans can do with something called coffee." The mere mention of the word sent Vex Thyrax into emergency crystalline recalibration mode. Somehow, he knew this was only the beginning of his problems with Earth's first recruit. The Academy's impossible simulation chamber was experiencing something it had never encountered in its million-year history: technical difficulties. More specifically, it was trying to process how a human had just broken physics. Again. "Explain yourself," human Nakamura-Rodriguez Vex Thyrax demanded, his crystalline form flickering between outrage and disbelief. "How did you survive the vacuum endurance test for 2 minutes without protection?" Kai, who was busy catching their breath, shrugged. "Held my breath." "That's not possible." Nix's VA lore manifested in agitation. "We calculated. The human respiratory system can actually hold oxygen for quite some time with training." Lieutenant Meridix interjected, her gelatinous form rippling with academic interest. "They call it freediving, apparently. They do it for fun." For fun, the crystalline twins harmonized in horror. But that was just the beginning. The real chaos started during the standardized combat training simulations. While other species relied on quantum calculations, dimensional shifting, or energy manipulation, Kai introduced the Academy to something called mixed martial arts. Did they just use gravity to throw something 4 times their mass? A quantum mind observer's crystalline matrix nearly cracked trying to process the physics. "I believe humans call it leverage," Meridix noted, recording everything. Also, apparently they learned it by watching ancient Earth videos called action movies. Then came the infamous coffee incident. It started innocently enough. Kai had brought their personal stash from Earth, setting up a small coffee maker in the Academy's communal kitchen. The aroma alone caused several energy-based lifeforms to vibrate at unexpected frequencies. "What is that intoxicating smell?" Zyx IA Blue Scale, a normally reserved plasma being, drifted closer to investigate. "Just coffee," Kai replied, pouring a cup. "Want to try some?" That's when everything went sideways. Literally, in some cases, as several dimensional barriers temporarily destabilized. The crystalline twins, curious about human customs, attempted to analyze the drink by harmonizing with its molecular frequency. They spent the next 6 hours vibrating at caffeine speed, creating unavoidable resonance patterns that made all glass surfaces within 50 meters spontaneously play Earth jazz music. Nix's VA lore, not to be outdone, tried to experience coffee simultaneously across 11 dimensions. The resulting energy spike caused a temporary breach in space-time, through which several confused ancient Earth dinosaurs briefly appeared in the cafeteria. Banned Vex Thyrax declared, his form practically strobing with distress. "This substance is hereby classified as a Class X reality warping agent." But it was too late. The Academy had gotten its first taste of human stimulants, and nothing would ever be the same. The quantum mind students began incorporating coffee-induced probability fluctuations into their calculations. The energy beings discovered they could achieve new frequency states by absorbing coffee vapor. Then came the endurance trials. "You want me to run how far?" Kai asked, reviewing the course parameters. 50 quantum leagues, Vex Thyrax replied smugly. "No species has ever completed it in one attempt. The atmospheric conditions change every quantum meter, and the gravity. Cool, like a marathon, but with extra steps. Mind if I listen to music?" What followed was a display that had the Academy's xenobiologists rewriting textbooks. While other species required rest cycles every few quantum leagues, Kai just kept running and running and running. "How are they still moving?" Nixis asked in disbelief. "Their endurance should have failed hours ago." Apparently, Lieutenant Meridix consulted her notes. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The entire crystalline hierarchy simultaneously shuddered, creating a harmonic cascade that would be remembered as the Great Chiming Incident of Cycle 3387. But the real shock came during the survival training module. Each recruit was placed in a simulated hostile environment with minimal resources. While others used advanced technology or natural abilities, Kai approached it with what they called camping skills. They're making fire. By rubbing sticks together, a quantum mind observer noted with a mix of horror and fascination. And now they're singing. A human tradition called campfire songs, Meridix explained. Though I admit I don't understand the logical purpose of a narrative about a bear seeking processed food products. The final straw came during the problem-solving assessment. While other species worked on elegant mathematical solutions, Kai introduced the Academy to something called duct tape. This is unprecedented, Vextharax muttered, watching as Kai repaired a quantum manifold with silver adhesive strips. They're solving complex engineering problems with sticky ribbons. If it can't be fixed with duct tape, Kai recited sagely, you're not using enough duct tape. The day ended with an emergency faculty meeting. The administrative IIs were having existential crises trying to grade human solutions that worked, despite violating several laws of physics. The xenobiology department had to create a new classification just for human biology, titled Technically Impossible but Somehow Functional. Lieutenant Meridix found Kai in the Academy's recreation area, teaching XIA and several other curious students something called breakdancing. I must admit, Meridix said, her form rippling with amusement, you've certainly made this cycle interesting. Just wait until I introduce everyone to spicy food, Kai grinned, demonstrating a headspin that made several gravity-manipulating species question their understanding of centrifugal force. In his office, Vextharax stared at the growing list of human incidents and realized with crystal-clear clarity that the Academy would never be the same. And somewhere in the background, the crystalline twins could still be heard humming Earth jazz tunes, their harmonics permanently altered by their coffee experience. The Nebula Warriors' final trial loomed before the Academy like a quantum storm. Every surface in the massive simulation chamber gleamed with an otherworldly light, reality itself bending at the edges. Above the entrance, holographic letters spelled out Omega Protocol, where probability ends. The rules are simple, Vextharax announced to the assembled crowd, his crystalline form radiating smug satisfaction. Survive the impossible. Complete the incompletable. Master the unmaster. We get it, Kai interrupted, doing arm stretches. It's really hard. Quick question though, are we allowed to bring snacks? The quantum mind observers began calculating the probability of anyone being this casual about the Omega Protocol. Their processors immediately crashed. This is not a joke, human Nix's VA lore manifested agitatedly across several dimensions. I hold the current record, and it took me 11 simultaneous attempts across parallel realities. Lieutenant Meridix's gelatinous form rippled forward, displaying the historical stats. The Omega Protocol was designed by combining the most advanced theoretical physics with practical combat scenarios. Previous approaches include quantum probability manipulation, trans-dimensional phase shifting, harmonic resonance fusion, advanced energy state transmutation, and one very confused AI that achieved sentience and immediately retired. Kai nodded thoughtfully while rummaging through their pockets. Cool. But are we absolutely sure about the snacks thing? Because I brought trail mix. Before Vextharax could crystallize from pure exasperation, the chamber doors opened. Inside, reality twisted like a Klein bottle having an identity crisis. Your mission, Vextharax announced, is to reach the quantum core while reality itself works against you. Nix's VA lore's record stands at 34.7 quantum minutes, achieved through perfectly calculated probability waves across. But Kai had already started moving. Their first obstacle was a section where gravity reversed every microsecond. While Nix's had navigated it through complex 11-dimensional calculations, Kai simply started dancing. What are they doing? PH Rex harmonized in confusion. I believe Meridix consulted her xenocultural database. It's called breakdancing meets parkour. They're using the gravity shifts as beat drops. The next challenge involved a maze where each corridor existed in quantum superposition. Nix's had solved it by existing in all possible states simultaneously. Kai pulled out their phone. That device is not rated for quantum spaces, Vextharax screeched. Yeah, but I downloaded this maze solver app last night, Kai replied, tapping away. Plus I've got this really good playlist for maze running. The crystalline twins began composing an emergency harmony to prevent their forms from cracking at the sheer audacity. Then came the combat simulation. Holographic warriors materialized, each one adapted to exploit the weaknesses of whoever faced them. They took one look at human biology, attempted to calculate exploitable weaknesses, and promptly crashed. Did they just experience existential confusion? XIA Bluescale asked, watching the holograms glitch. Makes sense, Meridix noted. They're programmed to target vital organs. Humans evolved with most of theirs apparently placed at random, with some serving no clear purpose and others being completely redundant. The chamber's AI voice crackled. Error species defies logical analysis. Rebooting. Kai used the distraction to sprint past, occasionally tossing trail mix into their mouth. Love these raisins. The next section was the infamous probability storm, where reality itself fractured into infinite possibilities. Nixis had navigated it by calculating each probability thread. The crystalline hierarchy had used harmonic resonance. Energy beings simply dispersed their consciousness. Kai put on sunglasses. Those will not protect you from fractured reality. Vex Thorax's voice cracked with multiple harmonics. No, Kai agreed, but they make me look cool while running through it. What followed defied every known law of physics. Kai simply refused to acknowledge the impossibility of their situation. They moved through the probability storm like it was a light drizzle, occasionally humming what they later explained was their epic boss battle theme. The final challenge was the quantum core itself, a sphere of pure impossibility that had to be approached and touched. Previous record holders had spent precious minutes preparing complex force fields or calculating safe approach vectors. Kai walked right up and knocked on it. Hello? Anyone home? This thing reminds me of a disco ball. The quantum core, for the first time in its existence, seemed to hesitate. Then, defying all known laws of physics, it started pulsing in rhythm with Kai's humming. Time Lieutenant Meridix announced, her gelatinous form practically vibrating with excitement. 25.3 quantum minutes. They've shattered the record. The chamber erupted in chaos. The quantum mind observers had to be rebooted after trying to calculate how probability itself had been defied. The crystalline twins began an emergency harmony that accidentally invented a new form of jazz. Nix's VA lore existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously and was shocked in every single one. Impossible. Vex Thorax's form had gone completely transparent. The simulations, the calculations, the very laws of physics. Kai grinned, still munching on trail mix. Here's the thing about humans: we're really bad at accepting impossible odds. We just kind of ignore them. Like if you tell us something's impossible, we take it as a personal challenge. But how Nixis manifested directly in front of them, all 11 dimensions trembling with confusion. Well, Kai explained, offering them some trail mix. I figured the whole chamber runs on quantum probability, right? But human determination is kind of like quantum stubbornness. The more you tell us something's impossible, the more we accidentally break reality trying to prove you wrong. Lieutenant Meridix, who had been recording everything, suddenly rippled with understanding. They turned their species' illogical nature into a weapon against logic itself. The chamber's AI spoke one final time before shutting down for emergency maintenance, redefining parameters. Impossible now classified as temporarily inconvenient for humans. The High Council of Nine's emergency session was interrupted by an unusual sound, human laughter echoing through the ancient halls of the Celestial Defense Academy. The council members, each representing the most advanced species in the galaxy, found themselves dealing with an unprecedented situation, rewriting the laws of physics to account for human unpredictability. The numbers don't lie. The quantum mind representative's crystalline form pulsed with resigned acceptance. Human Nakamura-Rodriguez has broken every record we've established over 10,000 cycles. Our theoretical frameworks need updating. Lieutenant Meridix's enthusiastic ripples interrupted. Just look at the data. The holographic display showed Kai's achievements. Quantum maze solved by ignoring quantum mechanics entirely. Probability storm navigated through sheer stubbornness. Combat simulations broke the AI's logic processors. Nebula warrior trials turned impossible physics into a dance party. And the crowning achievement, the Omega Protocol record, shattered while snacking. Vex Thorax floated forward, his crystalline structure showing unusual patterns, the equivalent of a humbled blush. Esteemed council, I must admit my initial assessment of human potential was incorrect. Incorrect, the crystalline twins harmonized in disbelief, still slightly vibrating from their coffee experience. It was a quantum leap of underestimation. Nyx's VA lore, now fully embracing their role as Kai's friendly rival, manifested across all event dimensions to add, they forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about intelligence, adaptation, and the proper use of adhesive strips. Meanwhile, in the Academy courtyard, Kai was teaching an enthusiastic group of energy beings something called the wave, which was causing interesting ripple effects across several dimensional planes. The question remains, the Council's energy collective representative flickered. How do we adapt our training methods to account for human chaos theory? If I may, Lieutenant Meridix brought up her comprehensive notes. I proposed the establishment of a new training wing, the Terran Division. Instead of fighting human unpredictability, we embrace it. The display shifted to show proposed changes. Impossible scenarios now labeled temporarily inconvenient. Coffee approved as a training tool with proper safety protocols. Human music incorporated into harmonic resonance studies. New course, creative problem solving through duct tape. Emergency jazz protocols for crystalline species. Furthermore, Meridix continued, her form practically bouncing with excitement. Human Nakamura-Rodriguez has agreed to serve as our first human instructor of improvisation. The council chamber erupted in a chaos of light, sound, and probability fluctuations. Zix's IA Blue Scale, who had become one of Kai's closest friends, began demonstrating what they'd learned about human fist bumps to fascinated observers. Vex Tharax approached Kai, who was still in the courtyard, now teaching a group of quantum beings how to do the robot. Human Nakamura-Rodriguez, his crystalline form shifted through several apologetic frequencies. I owe you a sincere acknowledgement of my error. No worries, Vexy Kai grinned, causing several nearby energy beings to pulse with suppressed laughter at the nickname. Want to learn how to moonwalk? Perhaps later. But first, would you consider taking on a formal teaching role? Your methods, while completely illogical, have proven remarkably effective. Sure. First lesson, sometimes the best solution is no solution. Second lesson, everything's better with background music. As if on cue, the crystalline twins began harmonizing an earth jazz tune they'd learned, causing the quantum glass windows to vibrate in rhythm. Several passing AI instructors automatically began calculating the beat. The Academy underwent rapid changes after that. The once pristine halls now featured a gravity-optional dance studio, coffee stations in quantum-shielded rooms, emergency duct tape dispensers every 50 meters, a human culture appreciation center currently featuring a parkour course, and a new mandatory class embracing chaos, the human approach. 6 months later, graduation day arrived. The ceremony was unlike anything the Academy had seen in its 10,000-cycle history. Energy beings performed breakdance moves in zero gravity. Quantum minds calculated probability waves to the rhythm of earth music. The crystalline hierarchy had permanently incorporated jazz into their harmonics. To think, Meridix commented to Vex Tharax as they watched Kai teach the entire graduating class a human tradition called the conga line. We once thought humans were primitive. Indeed, Vex Tharax's form sparkled with amusement, though I'm still not sure about their latest suggestion to add something called a slip-end slide to the obstacle course. The Academy's AI made one final announcement before joining the celebrations. Yes, even the IIs had learned to loosen up attention. Human chaos theory now officially recognized as fundamental force of universe. Additionally, cafeteria will begin serving something called tacos next week. In the years that followed, the Celestial Defense Academy became known across the galaxy not just for its academic excellence, but for its unique approach to problem solving. Applications from Earth skyrocketed, each new human bringing their own brand of creative chaos. And somewhere in the quantum archives, a new plaque hung in the Hall of Records, bearing Kai's famous words, "The universe runs on physics, but humans run on caffeine, stubbornness, and really good playlists." The High Council eventually established one final rule: all future laws of physics must first be tested against human improbability. As one quantum mind observer noted, it's easier to rewrite physics than to explain why humans ignore it anyway. Kai's legacy lived on in the Academy's new motto, displayed proudly in quantum letters above the entrance: impossible is just another word for hasn't met a human yet.